I am stuck halfway through writing my book and can't seem to get it done. Any suggestions? What a great question, Gary. That is like, I've never heard that question before. Well, let me tell you. So to get your book done, it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of passion and a lot of craft, as Michael Bourne described. You really have to develop momentum for the book. So for fiction especially, I have found, because I write fiction myself, you have to do it every single day. Because if you don't, you lose the thread from where you left off. So you've got to do at least a little bit. Find your best time of day to do it. If your best work comes out in the morning, do it in the morning. If your best work comes out at night, do it at night. If you're strapped for time, it's extra stress, extra work, all of that. But you squirrel time away from other people during the day just to get something done, because you don't want to go through one day without having completed at least, your goal of 2,000 words or whatever it is. Even if they aren't great words, at least you are furthering things along with your book. I've also found that keeping a word count tracker can be very helpful. I do it as an Excel spreadsheet where all you're doing is just writing out your chapter numbers and chapter titles, and then in the next column, putting the word count in for each chapter as it's completed. And by doing that, you can look it over and say, wow, I'm up to chapter 4. I already have 12,000 words done. I'm already like a fifth of the way done. So it feels good to do that, but you also realize what is your average chapter length, like how long on average is each chapter in terms of word count, and will it make the word count total? If you multiply that average through the number of chapters you expect to have, what will your total word count be? What you can also do in your word count tracker is put a schedule on it and say, by this date, I hope to have a quarter done or half done or 3/4 done or have the whole thing done. Again, by the time you're at these pivot points, the material may not be exactly where you want it to be, but write it anyway. Meet those deadlines. You can always go back, rewrite, revise, do things, but just keep working, keep doing it. So the first book that I wrote in 1995, The Rock and Roll Reader's Guide, which did well at its time, but it's now long out of print. It's 300,000 words. I had to write it in 3 years while I had a new job. I got married. I broke my back on Baywatch television show, which is a whole other story. And so I thought, like, hey, it would be a snap. I'd get it done. But you have to understand that as soon as you start writing a book, and especially when you sign a contract, things are going to happen to disrupt your plan. So those 3 years went by really fast. But what I did, even when I hurt my back, I got a major flu a month before my deadline. I was getting married. All this crazy stuff was happening. Even when I couldn't focus enough to write, I still did things on the book. I reviewed old chapters. I did some formatting of future material. I did some research. I did stuff that I knew my brain could handle. So at least you feel like your book is constantly in motion. There's always something happening. So to me, that is the most important thing. It's keeping that momentum going and always writing. The worst thing to do that I found, especially with fiction, is to share it with other people while you're writing it, because they are going to burst your bubble so fast, you'll never be able to recover. And they don't know your work. They don't know where it's headed. They don't know where your vision is. So resist sharing it with other people. And even when it's done, be very careful about the people you share with, because they still might not get it. They still might not get it. So perfect example, very quickly, I'll give the example of Karen Freeland, who wrote, I produced her book, The Ins and Outs of My Vagina, a penetrating memoir. And it was a funny manuscript. It was great. It was beautifully put together. When I mentioned that book to people who knew nothing about her, the book, they said, oh, who would buy that? It's offensive, this, that, or the other thing. Well, when the book came out, it did extremely well. and not one person criticized the title, the subtitle. They all thought it was funny, and nobody questioned the validity of the book. So make sure that when you start in your project, you further it every single day and try to retain that passion. So don't get caught up in the nuance and the details of the problems, but try to remember the thread of the passion for why you're writing it.